Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we're going to talk about The Expanse, Season 1, Episode 6. It's called Rock Bottom. Full spoilers for the episode, as always. So this very much felt like a new start, which, fun enough, happens to be Episode 6, which is exactly the first episode of the second half of the season.
Yeah.
Because our main crew, Holden reveals to the rest what he did. And I thought it was actually quite an effective moment because it had been kept a secret since episode 1.
Yeah, I'd almost forgotten it was a secret.
Yeah, and like Amos's reaction and the way Nagata kind of like jumps in and kind of sticks up for him. I mean, I say sticks up for him. It's not really even that much. It's just enough. It's just a little leap to make sure he's not the only villain in the room. It takes a little bit of the heat off of him. But I thought that worked really well, and they go to Fred Johnson, and he's like, oh, I've got this survivor out there. We had this ship chartered from the OPA, wanted to borrow a ship so they could go out and get something from Phoebe Station, which I've been hearing about. And of course, Miller puts a couple of things together as well in this episode, which relates to that. But they say, no, we've got this mission, and he's like, no, you can't do it. You need to testify. You need to like clear all this name. And Holden's like, no, let me go. I want to do this. I want to do this. And it's almost a little bit heartwarming when you realise that the crew are all going to come back together at the end of the episode, and they've named the ship. They named the ship in the last episode, and we even see at the end, Amos is outside the ship, using his laser paint to put on a logo in the name of the ship, which is very Serenity, by the way. Reminded me a lot of the end of that movie where you see Inara painting the ship.
Of course it did.
Shut up. And yeah, so I liked this episode a lot. I thought it obviously the stuff on Ceres kind of advanced the plot a lot, whereas the stuff with the crew, it did advance the plot in the sense that now we're going back out to try and rescue someone who it's just a code name. It could be Julie. That was like my first thought.
That was the impression that I got. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're going out there to try and rescue someone. So they're working as a team. So there's kind of a bond that's built there after everything they've went through. And it's going back out, and it's still revolving around the same incident. It still all comes back down to this ship with the distress beacon, and why was it there? Who shot them? All of this is still that, and we still don't know. And I love that we still don't know. 6 episodes
Yeah, me too.
in. So no, and we got the turrets out again when they were threatening someone, because there's a lot of hostile tension.
It was a nice comedic moment though this time.
It was kind of funny. Speaking of Fred Johnson, let's talk about him a little bit, because obviously in the last episode we see this awful thing that he does, and Holden and the others bring it up in this one. Oh, that's not what you're remembered for. You're remembered for being this, the butcher of the station. Anderson, thank you. And they bring it up, but the way he keeps talking, the way he's like, I'm not entirely sure what his goal. Like, I'm almost wondering if it's a redemption thing, because even Avasarala on Earth says that at one point, like he might be trying to fight for redemption. That's why he turned his back on Earth, because it put him in this dark place where he was making decisions like this. I don't know, but is he trying to like defuse the war out of nobility?
Yeah, which is weird, because obviously from what we've been speculating, the OPA have not been trying to defuse anything.
Yeah, if anything, they want the war, so it makes him not affiliated with anyone, at least as far as we can tell right now.
Yeah.
He's on his own. Him and his people are their own thing right now, to an extent, and maybe he is the lesser evil.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder what he is doing. Because obviously they speak about how he's building this ship, and it's the biggest that has ever been built. And it makes me wonder what's his end game. Why is he doing that? What's the purpose?
Fresh start in a new solar system. He wants to. As far as I say that, because there's a few times where there'll be a small scene, usually with the music coming in, where it'll really remind me of Mass Effect a little bit. Just a couple of little music cues.
This is one of the things that obviously watching this past week has put me in the mood, and I started playing Mass Effect again earlier just because of this.
It was again when Kamal and Amos were in the club and the bar, and just the dance music was playing in the background. It reminded me a lot of a couple of bits in Mass Effect 1 and 2 when you go into like a dance club and you're like just to talk to someone, but you're walking through and you're hearing the dance music.
Yeah.
It was the same kind of atmosphere. There's no aliens, of course, but it felt very similar.
Agree.
So, Nah. So I think their characters all benefited in this episode, and it feels like they're bonding. Holden and the guy especially feel like there's kind of a mutual respect kind of forming there. Something that wasn't necessarily there the whole time, but they've went through enough now that... Because even Kamal's reaction, Amos is a little bit more hostile, and he's even offended when the guy... Like, he realises that she was scared of what he would do, what his reaction would be to this news, and Kamal's just like, you should have said something. Earlier, meaning, of course.
But yeah.
But nah, I thought that was a lot of advancement for those characters. At the end, when he sort of hesitates, but Amos accepts the coffee from Holden, it's just this little symbolic thing. This little look. We're not necessarily in a great place, but I understand.
And more importantly, we're back to coffee.
But yeah, so it's a running theme in the show, and that constant coffee. But yeah, they've souped up the ship. They've added a lot of extra things on it. They're all wearing outfits as if they're part of a gas company, and they take off, and they've got the logo on the side, and it's like we have our main crew, we have their ship that they've named. It's almost like we've had the origin of how they form the core crew.
It's weird how long that took when you think about it.
Yeah, I have to say that I still love that we're still... Everything that is happening this season is still spiraled out of that one thing, and I love that.
I agree, but I mean, like, these events of this is the crew, this is the ship, feels almost very episode 1-esque of a show. Like,
it does.
Here's them setting off on a mission, sort of thing.
But it means something because we've actually built them up, and we get it's almost like the stuff before this would maybe be the flashback episode of a later season in another show. But it works well because we care about them, and it feels like an epic moment when they're all they're doing is leaving the docking station at the end, and that's the end of the episode. But the music sort of swells up, and we go off, and that's kind of their thing. So let's talk about some other plot lines before we get to Ceres. Let's just quickly toss out, obviously related to them on the Tycho station. Am I getting that name right?
I think so.
Yeah. There's a spy on there for Earth, and Vasarala is trying to wrangle her way into access, and we see the spy notice that Holden's there. That's all we see, but the fact that they're confirming he's there would be enough.
Yeah. So
that's that. Needed to be mentioned. Not sure where that's going to go, but surely it'll get Fred. Old Freddy will get in some trouble.
It wouldn't have played that moment if it wasn't going to come up again. It would be just pointless.
Yeah. So, but obviously the other main thing is on Ceres with Miller, and I was wrong. I thought if it was Jared Harris that it wouldn't be a hostile thing.
Look, rephrase that. Instead of saying you were wrong, say I was right.
Never. If I could do a Michael Caine voice, I'd be doing Michael Caine saying never at you right now. Never.
I will picture it in my head.
Never. But, so Jared Harris is the one who's got him. And I keep saying Jared Harris. I shouldn't. I should be using his character's name. But you know what? I mean, Dawes is fine and all, but he's Jared Harris. That's what I know him as.
That's because Dawes just sounds like a noise.
It does a little bit, doesn't it? But we learn more about him. We learn a bit more of his backstory and his sister and how he willingly killed her to make sure there was enough supplies for the rest of the family when she was like sick from all the 0G and all that. But he doesn't know what happened to Julie, or at least if he does, he doesn't want this evidence leaking out. The chip that Miller was able to get in the last episode. This is what they want. This is what they're after. And there was a lot of great stuff where Harris picks up the hat.
Yeah.
And you're just like, is he going to find it? Is he not? But again, their chemistry, their banter, even though it's a completely different situation because it's interrogation, still works out quite well.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, so a nice little callback to episode 1. Miller gets thrown in the airlock and the oxygen's coming out, and we get this fantastic moment where his two captors, the brother and the sister, get shot, but we see it from his perspective down at the bottom of the airlock, and we just see the blood splatter hit the top of the door.
Yeah, the window, and it just looks great.
It just looks great, and then it opens and the body falls in. Great big moment, and obviously, Mus, who I've been getting to know throughout just in little bits, that is his ex-partner or just a copy he works with, and they have the little quiet moment, and this is the first time she ever killed anyone, and he kind of relates this, and it kind of again comes back to his dark past and why he's so conflicted and why he's so jaded and cynical. And it's funny because Jared Harris brings up that you're in love with Julie, you're carrying a photo of her, and I don't know if that's quite hitting the nail on the head. I think he's misanalyzing what's going on.
I would say I hope he's misanalyzing, because if not, I felt like we've been a little bit cheated on that as well, because it's like I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's. I think he's obsessed. I think he's latching on to
sure,
her.
yeah.
But I don't think it's a romantic I'm attracted to her kind of thing. I think it's.
Yeah,
I think she
really hope it's not.
She represents something to him.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's not herself that's the issue. This is him having a chance to actually make a difference and do something important where he feels like he's not this entire time. And Jared Harris even brings that up, and she would spit in your face if she met you. You're a belter who feeds off other belters. You're the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
So, I think that's where it's going. But then he tries to bring it to his captain, and the captain turns out is being paid.
No, yeah, because that wasn't obvious at all as soon as he started that speech.
Yeah, as soon as she was like, so if you told anyone else, I'm like, oh no.
I know.
She's a villain. Have you made any copies? Say yes. Just say yes. That was a bit cliched, that scene.
Yeah.
I will say that. I do like what it does for him, though. I like that he's now essentially Dirty Harry, where he's not going to be part of the Force, but now he's off the Force, so he can try and crack the case.
Is it weird I almost excuse the cliche stuff in his storylines, because he is essentially playing a noir in space, so kind of playing into cliches.
You kind of want some of those noir cliches to pop in.
Yeah. So it kind of makes sense.
I have to admit, like, and obviously the space stuff's my favourite kind of things that are going on, and the mystery. But I have to admit, I have been consistently entertained by Miller's plot throughout.
Yeah, me too.
And I think the pacing of it is very deliberate, very piece by piece. It's almost like a really good comic book run where the issues don't feel disconnected. Everything kind of flows as if it is meant to be a continuous thing where you're trusted to remember what happened in the last part. And this is kind of the TV embodiment of that. It's completely serialized, but it's well paced. It's not.
Yeah, because you never get that much of it in an episode, really. But you always get just enough to take it the next chapter.
Yeah, some people I think would maybe argue it's too decompressed, which is an odd word to use when we're talking about space, and that's something that pops up. But it's like it maybe only has X amount of story per episode, but it doesn't waste the time. It doesn't use filler. It doesn't add fluff. It uses the time to build the characters and build the mystery and create something out of it, rather than, it's like, okay, we've got a scene where two characters are interrogating each other, or we've got a scene where there's a shootout or something. How do we slow that down and actually make everything matter? So it's not just a typical shootout, or it's not just a typical interrogation. Yeah. They put more thought into it.
I also think structurally it's a little bit different to like all the stuff in space. While yes, it's part of this overall larger story, like this big singular event, it feels like this is a story and then another story. Like we got parts of, like up to the Mars ship, then this station was its own story, whereas Miller's everything is just the one singular story. So it kind of is a really nice just difference that you get in each episode.
It's a through line. It's a through line that's always there. Yeah. But yeah, you could almost have the show just be the space folk, and I wouldn't want that, because the other stuff adds to it and it gives you all this context and texture and the world around it. But you could almost rewrite the show a little bit to just be them, and it would work to an extent. And I think that's the kind of the only stuff that doesn't work on its own is probably their stuff. Not that it's bad. It's just it is completely dependent on the other things making it matter.
Yeah,
which is fine. But another subplot we get in this one is some characters I don't believe we've seen before. It's a guy and his nephew who are like a salvage, like a sort of amateur salvage.
They're taking ice, aren't they?
Yeah, taking a big rock. There's ice in the middle, and they try and explode it in the net, and it doesn't go as well as planned, and he's pissed about it. But the border patrols say they're in a sector they're not meant to be in, and they kind of threaten them, and they say you can't travel through this sector, you have to go around. And he's like, we don't have fuel for that. You're stepping on the little guy, kind of thing. And I have no doubt this is going to be relevant. I'm sure, because obviously later on in the episode he gives his nephew a suit and kicks him out into space, essentially. And he does this because he's about to basically go on a little suicide mission to give a middle finger to the establishment, where he throws all the rocks from the ice that he was collecting at this ship, and it seems like he also gets blown up in the return fire.
Yeah.
But he's making a stand. He's going out. Obviously, he's a little cuckoo. It's not that very simple.
He seems very almost possessed by an idea once it gets there, and he kind of talks to himself and like, oh yeah, this we're gonna do now. And
I think this was fine on its own. I will admit I was expecting it to become relevant by the end of the episode, and it didn't yet.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what its purpose was.
Well, I'm
sure it will be.
Yeah, I'm sure we're like maybe our crew are going to find the nephew floating in space.
Yeah,
that seems like the most obvious thing that may happen. But
it felt a bit disjointed in this episode.
It did. It's the sort of thing that will feel fine probably once it actually does connect in. It's kind of like how they reintroduced us to Fred an episode before it became really important, just to remind us he existed, so that when it popped up, it wasn't just out of nowhere. It was.
Yeah. I really liked Fred's speech at the start of this, where the two of them come out of the ship and they have that kind of standoff and he deduces what's going on, and I thought that really set up his character nicely.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's able to read the situation. Go, no. If you had a Martian on board, he'd be out here talking to me. If you had more people, you'd be making a show of force. No, this is you.
Yeah, because obviously before this, we got the the Butcher. That's his nickname, and you kind of just have this impression of like macho, straight in, show of force, not necessarily that smart. Whereas this, he feels very tactical, very well thought out, very well planned.
Joe wouldn't surprise me if later on in the season we get an episode that flashes back again to the Anderson, but we get it all from his perspective. Like on his ship, what is his decision making? Why is he making this choice? And we see more to it that makes him less of just an outright, villain.
Yeah, that'd be interesting, that.
She sounds so interested.
I'm sorry, no, I genuinely would be interested.
Dear. Yeah, that was another solid episode. I don't think it's had a dud yet. I really don't.
No, and we got a bit more with the overall stuff from Miller, with what was actually on that.
Oh, of course, yeah. We can't not talk about that. That's just a good point. I was ready to wrap up. You're right. So it was a message from someone on the Phoebe station, which we've known about, and that's where the ship, the Scullipole. There's so many ship names in this show. It's getting hard to keep track of them all. But the ship that was nope, I'm hitting my mic now. This is turning into shambles. But the ship that had the beacon on it that lured the can out there, that was going there to intercept another ship that was going to Phoebe or coming from Phoebe with the weapon, the bioweapon.
Something.
Yeah. Well, Miller theorizes it's a bioweapon.
He speculates, yeah.
Yeah.
But which means it's probably not.
Which means it's possibly not, but at least that links up with what we saw, because we saw something in episode 1. We saw.
Yeah.
And again, I love that that's not been we've not seen that again. It's just we're building to that mystery. It's there.
It's like we know there's something that he's talked about how it's supposed to be dormant, but there's heat signatures. It's awake essentially.
Yeah, it's memorable. It was memorable enough in the first episode that we don't need to see it again. It's like as soon as they start talking about they might have something, it's like I think we saw that. I think we saw what that was.
Yeah. And
what does it do? And is it a weapon or is it something else?
Yeah, and I'm really intrigued.
Either way, I fully believe that it's going to change the balance of power. Like, it's that important, whatever it is.
I'm intrigued. Is it a creature of some sort?
Oh.
Because, I mean, even a bioweapon would indicate life.
It would, and if it was a creature, that would actually be very alien. Because that was a bioweapon, if you go by the Prometheus backstory. Which I think the backstory still holds up. The movie's not necessarily the best written thing in the world, but...
No, I mean, that's fine.
It is very much that. It's this idea of a creature can be used as a weapon.
And to be fair, that first episode, that start, is kind of alien-esque.
It feels more alien-esque than the rest of the show, which feels a bit more Mass Effect-y.
Yeah.
And I'm cool with both of those feelings. If they want to keep giving me Mass Effect mixed with Alien, I am A-okay with that.
Me too.
So, Yeah. So that's super intriguing. Excited to see what more of that is, um, and again, I just really like how almost without. I mean, obviously I realised it, but it's just the way this felt like a almost like if they split this show in this season in half.
Mm.
This really did feel like it could have been the first episode of the new arc.
Yeah, it is like it's almost too short a story, like seasons almost.
But it's very fulfilling because the crew now are being proactive. They're not just reacting to things and making decisions about what's happening to them. No, we are being proactive. We're making the choice to do something, and that's a big turning point for the characters where you're sort of, and because we already care about them after everything they've went through, you're rooting for them. You're like, yeah, gun ho, let's do this.
Yeah.
So I think it achieves that really well. So props to this episode on the show. So that's episode 6 of The Expanse. Let us know what you thought of this one. Comments below, like and subscribe and all that stuff. Episode 7 review will be up tomorrow. We're going daily. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.